Arsenal look pretty damn good.
Calafiori's ball inside, finds Havertz! Low ball across the face, and it comes to Saka! Right, lovely run from him, it's pulled back.
Play, a chance for Calafiori! Well, it's coming in around the back, and Havertz! Odegaard will pounce upon it!
They already had a great foundation. A foundation that helped them become Premier League champions, led them to a Champions League final.
After 22 years of gloom, it's about to go boom!
Now, they've added some great players.
Bruno Guimaraes to Arsenal. Ezri Konsa to Arsenal. Bruges winger Christos Tzolis. Here we go. Dildana for the Brazilian.
They now look even better than the season before because they also didn't lose any major players. So the question is, what's stopping this team from going back-to-back in the Premier League? What makes this Arsenal team so scary is that they won the league the season before with their major attacking stars not playing at their best level. Because when you think about Arsenal, you think about Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, and both of these guys from an individual level were incredibly underwhelming the season before. Yes, they obviously had to deal with injuries, especially for Odegaard, that was a huge issue. He had knee issues all season, and Saka missed some time as well. But again, it goes back to my original point. These guys have always been the face of Arsenal, their best attackers. The guys capable of creating something out of nothing, yet the entire 2025-2026 season, they played at a 6 out of 10 level at best, and Arsenal still won the league. They still made it to a Champions League final. They still made it to a Carabao Cup final. So imagine what this team can achieve once these guys are healthy. We've seen it a little bit in the beginning of the season so far. This team has the potential to attack like the way they did in the 2022-2023 season, but keep that defensive foundation that they've had in the past 2 years that's allowed them to become title winners. Because Saka, yes, he had some contributions, of course. Both of them still played a role in Arsenal winning the league. But 7 goals and 7 assists in the Premier League is not that impressive for a guy that was regularly getting double-digit in goals and assists. He did step up for Arsenal, especially in the business end of the season. You have his goal against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. You have his performance against Fulham where he got a goal and assist. So again, I'm not saying they didn't contribute, but considering what Saka's abilities are, considering how good we have seen him play, you cannot deny that what he did individually wasn't his best work. That should make Arsenal fans optimistic though. Because yes, in my opinion, Saka is not the most aesthetically pleasing winger to watch. Respectfully, his comps are not gonna make you jump out of your seat. But he doesn't have to. He's an efficient monster at his best. Because I don't want Arsenal fans getting the wrong idea, and I get those guys that were saying he's better than Messi coming in the comments.
So Saka is better than Messi.
Oh
and
my
flipping Saliba
God.
is better than flipping every centre back of all time, bro.
Since you mentioned Messi, that right there, that Premier League by Saka is bigger than Messi winning the World Cup.
But yes, Saka at his best, his crossing is lethal. He's able to cut inside and shoot, but he's also able to get to the byline and cut it back with his right foot. He's also surprisingly good at generating a lot of power with his weaker right foot. We've seen it a ton in the Premier League. So imagine this guy's playing at his best, and then imagine Martin Odegaard at his best. The issue with Odegaard, unfortunately, was the knee problems that kept coming and going throughout the season, but we saw at the World Cup what he's capable of when he's healthy. Because football fans all suffer from recency bias. So a lot of people have already forgotten how good this guy was in the 2023 season and the 2024 season. In fact, even amongst the Arsenal fan base, I've always seen debates about Odegaard. There's a group of them that really feel like he brings the team down, that he's not direct enough, that because he's so left foot dominant, it limits the passing angles he can find. Now, I'm not saying these guys are 100% wrong. There are some legitimate criticisms around Odegaard's game. But I don't think there should be a debate that when Odegaard is at his best, Arsenal get better as a team. I think Mikel Arteta sees that. I think his teammates see that. I think the entire Arsenal football club sees that. The problem with him was that he kept getting injured and dealing with that knee issue while playing. So you didn't see the best version of him. But like I said, at the World Cup, we did see it. Because all the headlines around Norway were around Erling Haaland. But Odegaard was actually number 1 in a lot of key stats. He was ranked first for assists, for passes ending in the final third, for successful passes into the opposition box, for defensive line breaking passes, high intensity counter pressures, successful carries. So while that Norwegian robot deservedly got a lot of love, Odegaard was running the strings for that team, and he can do it again for Arsenal because now that they are the defending champions, teams are going to park the bus even more. And Odegaard is one of the best players when it comes to unlocking those low head-on blocks. He's so good at finding those little pockets of space, the little flicks, the little 1-2s in and around the box, And if he's feeling healthy, he's going to be able to shoot, he's going to be able to play freely. And when Odegaard and Saka are at their best, Arsenal play fluid football. People forget one of the reasons that these guys didn't play great football last year was that they spent a lot of time without both of these guys together healthy. And now that they've won a title, maybe Arteta's going to be less pragmatic. He's going to have that anchor off his back and let these guys play. Now, at the striker position, nothing has changed. It's still Havertz and Gyokeres. Havertz is another key Arsenal player that had to deal with a lot of injuries last season. He was out for a knee injury for pretty much the beginning half of the season, and then he came back and he was dealing with muscle injuries. Just like Saka and Odegaard, Havertz being healthy is so important to how well Arsenal play in the attack. He's not necessarily going to dominate the stats, though he will get you goals, but his presence allows Odegaard and Saka to play better. The three of them have a great connection that unfortunately Gyokeres is never going to be able to replicate. So this is another key guy that missed large chunks of the previous season, and yet Arsenal still won the title. And you can tell how much Arteta trusts him, because in all the big games, he went with Havertz whenever he was healthy over Victor Gyokeres. He's a very important player for the work he does with the ball, more importantly for the work he does without the ball, and him being healthy is another reason why we're seeing Arsenal play fluid football. So that's a major thing to keep in mind. All three of those guys that I mentioned had major injury problems the season before, and yet again, Arsenal won the title. Now we get to the left wing, and here Arsenal have a brand new face, Christos Zolis. Now the funny part is this guy really reminds me of Alexis Sanchez. I don't know whether it's him playing on the left wing with the number 17 on his back. I don't know if it's because of the little hunch he has when he's running or because of his unlimited work rate, but he reminds me a lot of Alexis Sanchez. Now obviously this goes without saying, he has a long way to go to even reach the quality and peak that we saw from Sanchez at Arsenal. It was just something that I noticed. He is a beast. If this guy was English and playing in the Premier League, teams would have already spent over £100 million on him. But because he's some Greek guy in the Belgian league, Arsenal got him for so cheap. And he looks to be an upgrade over Trossard. Of course, it's early to say that, and I understand that Trossard's best quality wasn't necessarily so much his ability on the ball, although he was good there. It was his ability to get goals in clutch moments. So we have to see if Zolis is able to do that. But from what I've seen so far, this is a guy that can run at you one-on-one. He's always buzzing. He always seems to be involved, even if he's not directly getting the goal or assist. And he just looks lethal. In fact, I think as he gets more comfortable, he's going to cut inside and shoot more. Because he's the new guy on the team, he's being a little bit more generous, trying to get other people involved, not trying to be seen as a selfish player. But I think once he gels with the rest of the squad, gets more comfortable in the Premier League, you're going to start seeing him beat guys and then hit that rocket of a shot. So even though Trossard, who was a big part of the title-winning campaign, went to Besiktas, I think they did very good on the market bringing this guy in. A younger guy with a higher ceiling, and it kind of shows you just how good this team could have become if they actually got Vinny. Like, I genuinely think this Arsenal team would have been unstoppable, easily Champions League favorites. And then lastly, Victor Gyokeres. Now, there's reports about this guy being upset about his role and wanting to leave. I don't know how trustworthy those rumors are, but him not playing against Coventry added more fuel to the fire. Listen, I understand that this guy's an easy player to clown. One of the easiest guys ever is to make a fail comp around, to see him do those little back heels, and he looks so stiff with his link-up play. But again, Arsenal don't win the league without his goals. And the great thing about Gyokeres is he's very good at scoring against the mid-table and lower-level teams. And that's a talent on its own, because sometimes you just need somebody that can put the ball in the back of the net against those teams. But I'm not joking. Go look at his goal-scoring record from the Premier League season. Yes, he scored 14 goals, but so many of them were against Leeds, against Tottenham, who were a relegation-level team the season before. And again, it's not a bad thing. Obviously, Havertz is preferred over Gyokeres, but it's good to have somebody like that in the team. And imagine how much more he can score if he plays with a healthy Odegaard all season, if he plays with a healthy Bukayo Saka. I think those two guys, because they're so good at creating, can boost his numbers even more, even if his link-up play never becomes what people expect from a Arsenal number 9. Now, that's the attack that was arguably their weakest part, because remember, they kind of went against the grain in the way that they won the league. Usually when teams become Premier League champions, their star was an attacker. We saw Liverpool a couple years back, they won it because Salah won the Golden Boot and the Playmaker of the Season award. When Manchester City won, they had Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Erling Haaland. Even Leicester, when they won, they had Riyad Mahrez, Jamie Vardy. Arsenal completely went against that. They won, and the best player in the Premier League ended up being Bruno Fernandes. Now, that's not something surprising. It's happened a lot in the past where the best player in the league wasn't necessarily on the team that became champions. But the funny part is, if an Arsenal player won that award, it would have either been David Raya, who's a goalkeeper, Gabriel, who's a center back, or Declan Rice, who is essentially a holding midfielder. So it says a lot about what this Arsenal team is still capable of doing, that they won the title, and yet none of their best players, I don't even think their top 5 players, were anywhere in their attack. So that brings us into the midfield. And thanks to the addition of Bruno Guimaraes, this might now be one of the best sections of this Arsenal team. Because Arsenal already had good midfielders. Them adding Zubamendi the summer before added quality and depth to the side. But now they went ahead and upgraded it even more by adding one of the best box-to-box midfielders in the league to their squad. I think Arsenal fans already knew how good Bruno Guimaraes was just based on Arsenal playing Newcastle throughout the past few seasons. This is a guy that can score goals. This is a guy that's very technical on the ball and super aggressive without it. He wins so many duels and he can play in multiple different roles. He's basically Arteta's dream player because he can play as the 6, he can play further forward as the 8, he can play line breaking passes, but he can also break your knee with a 2-foot tackle. He's capable of doing all of that. He's the perfect package as a central midfielder. And it's basically just like the Rice signing from West Ham. Arsenal went out, they picked up the captain of a club that was underperforming, a player that had bigger ambitions, and they brought him in. Now, unfortunately, he ended up being injured for the first game, but that's why they brought him in. So now if injuries happen to the Arsenal midfield, they can just rotate the different pieces around. In fact, as you've seen, the midfield to start out the season for Arsenal doesn't even include Zubamendi. It's been Declan Rice as the 6, with Lewis Skelly and Martin Odegaard in front of him. I'm shocked it took Arteta so long to put this midfield together. He seemed to be really afraid of giving Lewis Skelly a goal in the center of the park, which was surprising to me because he looked like a beast at left back the season before in the 2024-2025 season. I'll never forget that performance he put on against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. But Arteta, I guess, was hesitant to use this guy until he was basically forced to because Zubamendi kind of fell off a cliff after being ran into the ground. In fact, I was watching the City documentary the other day, and in their locker room footage, it showed that Pep Guardiola specifically was targeting Zubamendi in that Carabao Cup final.
Don't wait, go aggressive, because that's how we drop them. Make the children's one. Yeah, we another one, here. Rob is the move. Of course in the budget, you can do. Go, go, go. Zubamendi doesn't come there, he's alone. Like come always the...
So why Arteta waited so long to rotate when he had a beast like Lewis Skelly, I'll never know. But at least he gave him playing time in the business end of the season, and now in this new season, he's trusting him a lot more. Because the thing is, when Lewis Skelly gets on the ball, Arsenal go forward. He's much more direct than Zubamendi, he plays through the lines, he's an excellent carrier of the ball as well, uses his body well. You need players like that in the middle of the park, and also him being there allows Rice to play as more of a holding midfielder, because I think that's where Rice is at his best. We know he can play as an 8 and get goals and assists, but as the 6, you utilize his athleticism more, and if you have someone next to him who can get on the ball and get on the half turn, it's even better for Rice. Because the one weakness you can say from him is that he's a little bit too safe on the ball. He's an excellent carrier of the ball, and he can play through the lines, but he's a little bit more pragmatic in his approach. Well, that's why Lewis Skelly's there. He's going to be more forward-looking. And then you have Odegaard ahead of these two. But this midfield is now stacked because you can run with those 3, and that's a perfectly good midfield. Very good, all 3 of them. But now if you need to rotate, you have Zubamendi you can play in. You have Bruno Guimaraes who can play. So Arsenal shouldn't deal with the same issue they did the season before, where they had to use Zubamendi and Rice like an old sponge that you've absolutely destroyed. Just squeezing that little ounce of energy and water out of it, if I'm going to continue that sponge analogy. They don't have to do that anymore. And again, this goes back to me saying that since Arsenal have won the league, maybe Arteta is going to be a little bit less pragmatic and play different combinations that actually allow Arsenal to play free-flowing football. Because I'm telling you, all Arsenal fans saw this. When Lewis Skelly came into the center of the park, Arsenal's game just elevated. They were too predictable with Zubamendi with some of the passes he was playing, but not anymore. And then the midfield has even more depth outside of the guys that I mentioned. You have Mikel who can come in at any time and give you goals from the center of the park. You have Eze that can cover for Martin Odegaard, can play in that number 10/number 8 role. So their midfield is fantastic. Before, their back line was the best, but now the midfield's giving it a run for its money. And then finally we get to the defense, and I mean, we already know this is Arsenal's bread and butter. I saw people on Twitter making comps of the back line. Tells you where modern sports is. We used to make those comps for attackers, for Messi, Suarez, Neymar. Now I'm seeing Gabriel, Saliba, Yuri, and Timber edits, but again, I digress. Arsenal's backline just has so much quality and depth. You start with Raya in goal. A lot of people questioned this signing when he first came because Arsenal had just spent money on Ramsdale, but as the years have gone by, the decision to bring in Raya has just aged better and better. Perfect modern day goalie. I know some people were criticizing him that he's not the biggest goalie so he can't save certain long shots, but he has saved Arsenal's asses a lot with some incredible athletic saves. He's very good with the ball at his feet, good at sweeping, and can make a acrobatic save when he needs to. I don't think you can ask much more from your goalie. Even ESPN FC had him ranked as the #1 goalie going into the season. Now I understand that those guys are seen as a bit of a joke, but it tells you that a company that is notoriously known for bad takes still ranked Raya #1. So I think that says something about his brand name and the way that people now view him in the footballing community. Now, the other reason that he's won so many Golden Gloves is because the backline in front of him is fantastic. Yes, Saliba's missing a large chunk of the season due to a back injury, but I'm not sure if he's going to come back that quickly, considering the photos and reports I saw that he's with Ruby Rose. She's going to destroy his back, if you know what I mean. But the good thing for Arsenal is that their backline is filled with guys that are ready to be the next man up. You have Mosquera, who comes into that right center back role and he looks fantastic. Again, another one of those players where if he was English and he was in the Premier League, he would have gone for over £100 million. Because he was playing in Valencia, nobody cared, and he comes in and he looks fantastic. So he can step up now that Saliba's gone, and they got Konsa to add even more quality and depth. That's the right-hand side. On the left center back spot, you have Gabriel, who could have easily won the Premier League Player of the Year. He bleeds for the badge, he defends with his entire body, he's good at defending set pieces and attacking them. I'm not really sure what else you can ask from him. Yes, people are going to clown him for the penalty miss in the Champions League, but he's one of the best defenders in world football, and even without Saliba, he just raises Arsenal's ceiling so much. So he's still there next to Mosquera. And then at left back, I mean, these guys are stacked. You have Ricardo Calafiori, who at times I feel like he's playing left wing. People forget how good this guy's goal scoring ability is, because again, he was another one of those Arsenal players that spent a lot of time injured. But now that he's back, the guy's inverting in, he's in the opposition box, scoring like he did in the Community Shield, he's setting up other players for goals. There was times where I thought Zolis was the second striker and Calafiori was the left winger. And then if he gets injured again, you have Piero Hincapié, who's excellent in that role. He just has to make sure his shorts stay up. Yes, he's not the best going forward, he's not Ricardo Calafiori, but he's so solid defensively. And again, when you get these South American defenders, they bleed for the badge. And he's going to be no different. And he can play center back if Gabriel needs a rest. And then at right back, you have Timber, who when he's healthy, I think is the best right back in the league. Normally, I would say Reece James, but that guy's also made of glass. Timber's definitely up there. He looked incredible before he got injured. But if he's injured, then you have Ben White. Now, Timber is better than Ben White, but the whole point of that Arsenal backline is if somebody's out, the drop-off in quality isn't as big. There is a drop. Going from Calafiori to Hincapié is a bit of a downgrade, but not that big, proven by the fact that Arsenal won the league with Hincapié playing a ton of games at left back. So this Arsenal team, they're just very solid, and I understand that it's early in the season. We have to see if they can maintain their form and keep playing as well as they are. But you look around the league, who's going to stop these guys? Before, you could rely on Pep Guardiola and Manchester City to beat them at the end. But Pep is gone, and the guys that help Pep are also gone. Rodri went to Barcelona, Kevin De Bruyne left last season. Sure, City will always be in contention because of having players like Erling Haaland, who's basically guaranteed 20 goals a season, guys like Ryan Cherki. I still believe in Maresca as a manager, but they're still a team in transition. They've lost a ton of players, they have a brand new manager who isn't Pep Guardiola, and even Pep was struggling with the City team last season to beat Arsenal to the Premier League. Chelsea, a lot of people see as the favorites to at least challenge Arsenal because they only have to focus on one game a week, but even then, they have a brand new manager, they don't have the players that Arsenal have, certainly not in the defense, and they don't have the same midfield depth. Like, what happens if Caicedo gets injured or Enzo Fernandez gets injured? You're going to be looking at Jordan Henderson versus Lewis Skelly / Bruno Guimaraes / Zubamendi. So even Arsenal's backup midfield, their second starting 11 midfield, is better than what Chelsea can provide. So you can't put too much faith in those guys. Liverpool are also going through a transition with Iraola as a new coach, and they don't have Mo Salah anymore. Like, Arne Slot did win the Premier League in his first season, but he also had Mo Salah playing out of his mind. So you just look around the scene and it's like, who's going to challenge these guys till the very end? Because what they've done year after year is they've kept adding players while not losing any of the major guys that have made them good before. And now if their attackers can stay healthy, Arsenal can return back to being a team that not only wins football, but does it playing beautiful football. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you will love this one too. You gotta check it out right here.